If you're struggling to book paid portrait and wedding photography sessions as a new photography business, then this is definitely the video for you.
Welcome back to our video series, Free Marketing Tactics for Photographers. Today we are actually going to be discussing strategies that can turn your personal network into raving fans and paying clients. But before we jump into that, we want to introduce ourselves.
I'm Hunter.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're Hunter and Sarah Photography, a husband and wife professional wedding photography team.
We are also educators, and our goal is to help photographers to build strong foundations in both their businesses and their personal lives so that they can run profitable and sustainable photography businesses.
So in our last video, which was part 6 of this free marketing tactics series, we discussed how networking with other businesses can actually, businesses like wedding venues and daycares, can actually help you grow your own photography business.
This week, we are chatting about how important your own personal network is in the early days of your business and how you can use social media and a few other key tools in order to reach them.
So before we kind of jump into the specifics of all of this, we want you guys to understand that there's kind of a well-known business, it's sort of well-known in the business world that, especially when it comes to small businesses, the most challenging part of actually making a sale isn't developing the product, which for a photographer is basically like honing your skills as a photographer. And it's not delivering on your promises, like actually showing up, shooting and editing and delivering the photo shoot. And it's not even making the sale, which you might do over email, or maybe if it's a wedding, you do this over a video call.
Yeah. The most difficult and often most expensive part of your entire sales process is actually getting in front of potential clients in the first place and then convincing them that you are worth even considering. This fundamentally is, what marketing and advertising is all about.
And hopefully this makes sense intuitively if you think about it, right? So consider how many advertisements you see throughout a normal day, right? So that's anytime you're scrolling on social media and you see a sponsored content, or anytime you're watching TV or streaming and an ad pops up. And this is even like driving down the road and you see a billboard or you see a yard sign for a political candidate. All of that is marketing and advertising.
Yeah. As consumers, we are literally all of us just completely inundated with marketing material. So becoming yet another voice in that just already too loud, shouting match for the attention of your clients is difficult, and it's a crowded field.
But here's the deal. If you want people to hear what you have to say and actually consider buying something from you, the thing that you ultimately need is trust. And as a photographer, there's really 2 kinds of trust that you need from potential clients. The first is trusting you as a professional, and the second is trusting you as a person.
Yeah. After all, you can have literally just the best photography in the world, but if a potential client is convinced that you are kind of shady, or maybe if you're just unprofessional, they're unlikely to buy from you. And vice versa, you could have someone who just trusts you as deeply and sincerely as just a wonderful person, but if they don't think your photography is worth investing in, they won't be hiring you either.
So at the end of the day, assuming you know what you're doing on the photographic side, then getting someone to trust you as a person is probably the harder sell. And this is where the good news with your personal network comes in, right? Your friends and family, you've already won them over. They already know you. They already trust you. So if you put quality imagery in front of them and get them to trust you as a photographer, which honestly is probably the easier of the two, then you've already checked both boxes on trust. And the next time they need a photographer, you're probably going to be the first person they think about.
Yeah, and this isn't just like a theory that we have, for us or just for our students. We push all of our apprentices and coaching students really strongly on sharing their work with their personal network. And they consistently tell us that our theory plays out in reality, tried and tested.
Yeah, so this is just kind of a fun thing, but check out this screenshot from one of our students. Now, it seems like a pretty simple Instagram DM, right? This person reached out to our student, said that they saw that she was shooting and, inquired about a session, right? The reason that our student sent us this screenshot is because this was a friend of hers from elementary school. Literally, they hadn't talked in like 10 or 15 years, but because our student had been consistently posting her own professional work to her personal network through her business Instagram, converted from her personal Instagram, people she never expected to reach out were suddenly reaching out to her and eventually hiring her for her photography.
Yeah, Hunter and I just find ourselves constantly marveling at this idea of, you never really know who is following along. We'll be at the grocery store or visiting Hunter's parents close to where we grew up. I mean, I was in a dressing room one time, and we run into people who we haven't seen or talked to since high school, which at this point for us is, what, 15?
Yeah,
10 years?
long time ago.
Many years. And we run into people who tell us how much they love reading our blog or just seeing all of our beautiful wedding imagery on social media.
And as fun it is for people to tell you they love following your work, it's way more fun when those people start reaching out to you and actually booking you to shoot their portrait sessions or their wedding days. So check out these pie charts, right? So these are the first 5 years of our business, of our wedding photography business. This is the lead source. So this is where we got the jobs from that we eventually booked in the first 5 years. Now, if you look at these 5 pie charts, what you can see is that for 4 of the first 5 years, right, year 1, 2, 4, and 5, when we were charging, $1,000 all the way up until the $3,000 to $4,000 range for our wedding coverage, word of mouth inquiries from our personal network or past clients was our number one lead source by far.
Yeah. All of the word of mouth inquiries in these charts represent the 40 weddings that we booked in those first 5 years from our personal network, which translated to just under $100,000 worth of wedding coverage. And we had similar results on the portrait side of our business as well.
And keep in mind, these 40 weddings that we booked from our personal network had a $0 marketing cost, right? So yes, over time we eventually incorporated some paid advertising and other aspects, other marketing avenues, but $96,500 of weddings from exactly $0 in marketing sounded pretty good to us. And something else, just a quick side note, you may have noticed is that starting in year 3, vendor referrals, so referrals from other wedding vendors, showed up on that list and has basically grown over time. And that was exactly what we covered in the last episode of this marketing series.
And just one quick caveat is that this is a simplified version of our actual lead tracking data that we made for this video, since our full data is just much more complicated.
It would just be harder to read on a small screen, basically.
We track our paid advertising sources separately, and we also track 2 different kinds of word of mouth inquiries. So the first is what we are covering right now in this video, and the second will be actually covered in next week's video. So if you were hoping to pause in that grid and find out what we were most successful in getting leads from, that grid's probably not going to help you.
But anyway, so at this point, we've established that your personal network can have a huge impact in your photography business. So really the only question is how do you actually market to them? And so for starters, think back to when we talked about social media in part 4 of this video series. Now, if you haven't seen part 4, we'd highly recommend going back and watching it now, because a lot of what we talked about there is going to play into what you actually do, right? So in that video, we recommended starting social media accounts on platforms like Facebook and Instagram. We recommended that, rather than starting a new Instagram for your photography business, you actually convert your personal into your business and all the reasons why that makes sense. But now we're basically going to tell you what to do with those social media accounts now that you have them.
Yeah. So no matter how old you are or where you live, chances are you already know people who are getting engaged, getting married, getting pregnant, having children, or whose children are even reaching those milestones like their first birthday party or even just graduating from high school or college. And even if you don't know anyone who is particularly in that stage of life, which would be a miracle, you probably do know people whose friends or siblings or children are actually also in those stages of life.
And so if you followed our advice from part 4 and created your photography Instagram and Facebook pages specifically targeted for your personal network, then you are already getting in front of all of those people and all of their, personal networks basically for free.
Assuming that your personal network follows you on what is now your photography Instagram, the key is, and I know that we have said this before, so we're just going to say it again, and we'll say it again and again, is to just consistently and professionally put content in front of them week in and week out.
When you shift from posting, photos of you and your friends hanging out, or pictures of, the meal you cooked, or the house project, or your pets, or whatever you post on Instagram right now, when you shift from that to posting professional images from your portrait and wedding work, your followers are going to notice.
Yeah, especially if you start this switch with a big announcement post. If your followers are used to seeing iPhone selfies or just snapshots of you, and suddenly there's a professional image of you holding a camera and announcing the business journey that you are that you're embarking on, it'll get their attention. So let them know that they're going to be seeing more photography content as you build your business.
So there's this old marketing adage that you have to get your advertisement or your marketing material in front of people at least 7 times before they actually internalize it, before it really sinks in. And I've seen things, and my guess would be in the digital world where we are just like always inundated with content. Maybe it's 15 or 20 or 50 times, but the implication here, no matter what that number is that one post is not going to change your life or your business, right? But consistently posting your professional work along with a mix of your personal work so that people get to trust you as a business and as a person, that will serve as a constant reminder that, hey, whenever you need a photographer, I'm right here. And that could change your life or your business.
Yeah. Just be sure to keep it true to yourself and to your brand. If you do fun and playful photo shoots, just make sure that your posts and your captions are full of fun and playful content and words. Whereas on the other hand, if you take very formal, fine art imagery that's a little more serious, make your posts and your captions a little more serious.
But either way, whatever you put out into the world, whatever you're sharing on your website and your social media, that is most likely what people are going to see themselves in, right? So if you are posting lots of family content, then people who want family sessions are going to come and find you. This is kind of seems intuitive, but this is one of the most common mistakes we see our apprentices and our students doing all the time, right? They come to us and they complain that, man, I really want to get at weddings, but the only people who want to hire me are families. And we go to their Instagram grid and it is 100% families, right? Whatever you show, that is what people are going to want to hire you for.
Yeah. So while social media is a great way to be in front of your personal network, don't forget about, all those real life relationships that you have too, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a student, if you work a job totally unrelated to photography, or if you're full-time in your photography business, you probably have friends, you have family, you have acquaintances, coworkers who you see regularly and you have some sort of relationship with. These people are also in your personal network.
So when you're catching up with friends, or maybe you're sitting around with your coworkers on Monday talking about how your weekends went, like mention, drop a little bit, oh, I was working on my photography business, or I had a photo shoot. And like when you see your family a couple times a year on the holidays and they ask, oh, how you been? The first thing you should mention is, your growing photography business. And if you are out with friends and they introduce you to one of their friends, inevitably, hey, what do you do for a living, right? That question often comes up. The first thing you should talk about is your photography business, even if maybe that's not the only thing you do right now. The point is, you never know who your next client is going to be. So let everyone you know that you're a photographer.
But that is it for today.
Guys, we're going to be back at you next week with new content, but make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff in the meantime so that you are the first to know when we come up with new content.
And if you haven't already, make sure that you go and join our Facebook community, Mastering the Wedding Photography Biz with Hunter and Sarah. This is just a community where we are gathering together other photographers who are trying to build their photography businesses and
helping them out along the way.
way.
And of course, if you found this video helpful, feel free to comment below, ask questions, whatever. We are really good about answering our comments.
Yeah. Thanks guys. We'll see you next week. Also, this chair's so squeaky. Every time I move, he's just like, It's a bummer.